Our guest today on the Training121 podcast is Karl Lambe. Named FAI Coach of the Year in 2018, Karl is the current head of small-sided games in St Kevin's Football Club, Dublin. Karl has coached some notable Irish players, including Jamie Mullins, Sean Grehan, David Okagbue and Evan Ferguson. Here today, Karl brings us through his coaching principles and influences, the future of Irish football, and what it's like to coach future superstars. We hope you enjoy. Karl Lambe, welcome.
Thanks, lads. Thanks for having me.
Unbelievable to have you here, sir. And like I said to you originally, myself and Morgan have been drafting this intro for a while because it's always something that I envisioned of saying, and I'm going to say it now. So here we go.
Lovely, yeah. I didn't
keeps them up at night.
Yeah.
So Evan Ferguson, Jamie Mullins, David Okagbue, Sean Grehan, Fiacre Pagel, I believe his second name is, Cian Kelly, Caprani, Kevin Zeffy, and Sam Curtis. They were all St. Kevin's players at one time, but they all played under you. What is your secret?
The right place at the right time, I think, is the first one, because when I started coaching, I obviously, as everyone knows, Pep Guardiola is a massive kind of my hero. So I had this naive notion that I was going to be, as arrogant as it sounds, the next Pep. So I didn't really, I kind of didn't find myself as a coach, but went into Kevin's, asked a few teams actually. And again, I think this is why it's right place at right time, because a few clubs got back to me. And I went into Kevin's thinking I'm going to go in here and have an Irish Barcelona. This would be about 2011. So Pep's Barcelona were in their pomp at the time. Mm-hmm. And they said to me, we've a group of lads that are going under 8s in a few months. So we want you to take them. And I was like, under 8s, that not babysitting. And again, thing of tying laces and wiping noses and that kind of thing. And not what I had pictured. But they said, just have a look at them. They're training during the week. They're kind of coming back. This will be in June, maybe. They're coming back after a break. And again, just pure luck. And I'd never lose sight of luck that when I went down, the first two players there were Sean Grehan and Evan Ferguson kicking the ball back and forward. So I thought, this is a ridiculous standard for 2 6-year-olds. Not normal. Just how both of them strike a ball and that kind of thing. And they were mature, as mad as that sounds, for 6-year-olds. So I thought, I'll give this a few weeks. And I remember going home kind of after the first week or two and saying, that's good, the players are really good, but I'm watching the Barcelona game the weekend, and it's very hard to kind of then go to coach 6-year-olds. But that's my advice to anyone starting a coach, would be start at that age, because you do find yourself. And if you can't get through to 6, 7, 8-year-olds and paint what you want them to do based on your kind of picture of the game, then you probably shouldn't be coaching kids, really. So I would put it down to luck, a lot of it down to luck, that I happened to get placed in with a strong age group. I don't know, maybe I'm selling myself short a bit, but I think just right place, right time, especially with Sean and Evan.
On that, because you kind of see this a lot with coaches, and I'm kind of guilty of this sometimes. I see a session or I drill idea on Twitter, and I'm like, I'll try that. Yeah. And did you find at the time, because like you said, that Barcelona thing is big inspiration, when you were going into sessions with the 6-year-olds, you were probably trying sessions.
I was definitely, and I talked to a lot of the young coaches about it now, don't get into that trap. I was definitely Googling and YouTubing Barcelona training sessions, Ajax training sessions, that kind of thing, and then going in. I was lucky, Sean's dad, Philip Gretton, was the manager, and he was unbelievable. He was, I definitely wouldn't be here without him, because he was so patient with me, because the first year or two, like I said, I'm finding myself and all these really good players, and you're in Kevin, so there's pressure there, and a good few of them, obviously Evan's dad was an ex-professional and worked for the FAI, so you're putting that pressure on yourself that, geez, the sessions better be good here, because if I'm giving them the wrong information, these parents are going to cop, they're going to be like, that's the wrong thing. So Phil was great with me, that he kind of led it and let me learn from him the first year or so. But I would have really been guilty of like definitely Googling things or what I did during that time from 2008 to 2012. I went to Barcelona like once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months. I was spending a ridiculous amount of money going watching Barca play. That Guardiola Barcelona team. Now in hindsight, I look back, it's the best thing I ever did because I think they're the greatest team of all time. Messi's the greatest player of all time. So I must have saw them 30 times in 4 years. Like,
wow,
incredible.
So now, like it's 10, 11 years since he left. And obviously things go in cycles and people are looking back in that time. At the time, I remember people just slag me, Barca cheating and the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge and all that mad stuff. But now kind of nostalgia's kicked in and people are kind of appreciating them for how good they were. So I think that was a massive learning kind of thing for me to go watch them, and that certainly shaped how I see the game and like to coach it. But I would have been really guilty of like Ajax passing drills, Barcelona passing drills, and doing what's on YouTube. And you don't learn as a coach doing that, I don't think, because you're literally copying it. And then when it goes wrong, because it doesn't go wrong for Messi or Xavi, but it's going to go wrong for a 7-year-old. So how do you fix that? Like, how do you coach that 7-year-old? So that was a massive learning curve for me. Like, yeah.
What would you say would be the biggest piece of advice then for young coaches when it comes to working with 8s and 9s? So stay away from YouTube, Google. How do you just get in the trenches with it?
Go watch other sessions. So go watch sessions. Like, don't Google, YouTube them. Actually go watch sessions. So like if you're in a club, and Kevin's really lucky where our 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s train on a quarter of a pitch each. So if the session should look similar or the same. Obviously the ages go up, they should be a little bit different in terms of the details. But if I was a young coach starting again, I'd go watch as many sessions as possible. No matter if it's in your own club, if it's in another club, and like ask questions. But find like why you want to coach. I think you have to love football, obviously. That's a big thing. But like me, I like getting to know the lads. I like getting to know the kids. I like getting to know if a kid has dropped form. Like why? Like you can't, a lot of the time you'll hear, oh, he's gone off the boil, or I thought I overrated him, or that kind of thing. And then you're going, well, if he was really good 2 weeks ago and he's not good the last 2 weeks, find out why. Like something wrong at school, something wrong at home, that kind of thing. So get to know your players. Don't just become like an X's and O's coach that if a session's breaking down, it's he's rubbish at play, some kind of thing. Like
very interesting.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at an underrated Kevin's team and you see Sean Grehan and Evan Ferguson there, do you look at them at 6 and see what Evan has become today?
I don't like. I wouldn't have known the level enough. I wasn't a particularly great schoolboy player, so I obviously know lads have done well in football, but I wouldn't have known the level really well enough to go, there's like a lad that's going to play and score in the Premier League at 18. I would have thought he's a great kid, and his parents are brilliant. So he straight away he has a chance because he's brilliant. He's a great kid, and his parents are the role model parents of how parents should be with a child, especially one with talent. And then Evan is really hard working, great attitude, open to learn, and so that kind of stuff. I thought, well, he has a chance that way because the things are going well there, and then his ability. It was obvious that he was exceptional ability, and he played everywhere for us. Only really under 13s, half for 212s. He started playing up front more often than not, but up until then we played him everywhere, and he done well everywhere. Yeah. So that kind of thing used to stick out, was that no matter where we play him, he's doing well, and then no matter who we play against, because we got exposed to playing against Man United like really early, and he always done well in those games. So that's kind of when I thought, yeah, there's something there, because we're playing Man United now, and he'd walk into the Man United team, that under 10s kind of thing. So that's when it kind of stuck out for me that there's something there. Like,
it's interesting with younger players like that age, kind of 6, 7. You can nearly see. I always find balance is the thing, with a kid. Do they like how they move their body around the ball, even if they're maybe a good defender, just how they kind of move themselves. I think balance is probably the thing you notice.
Yeah.
the most between them young players.
Like you say Sean and David, like to this day when I'm talking to a young player, they're the two I'll reference as how they hit a ball. Like Sean and David at under 9s, with one step could hit a pass like that would travel with pace. And if you take, say, a 7-a-side pitch, we were playing 7-a-side then, like with one step coming out of all defence, Sean and David would smash a ball into the striker's feet that you had to control, and I suppose that's deeper kind of discussion about unopposed, the pose work, that kind of thing. But I do believe striking the ball is a learned skill. And Sean and Dave at the start of every training session would have like spent 5 minutes, before at the start of training session, just smashing the ball back and forward, controlling and smashing it back and forward kind of thing. And whereas other lads might do the keep you up, these other lads will start lashing shots at the goal.
Gary loves that one.
Yeah, or the lad who plays the front wants to jump and go. But kids have to be kids. But Sean and David would just be pinging balls back and forward,
centre halves.
Yeah.
I only noticed that with Dave when I worked with him this summer. I was saying to Morgan, I couldn't get over. I do like a little change of direction thing, and without any run or anything, he just and the thing would travel 30 yards into my feet.
Yeah.
He had no backswing
absolutely
on that.
Ridiculous strike
Really,
ball.
really good.
Yeah.
That's
that was their really good. Obviously, the two of them are really good defenders. But that was their starting attacks. Like when they were coming out with the ball, you knew you had a chance. Just how well they could strike a ball and tread a ball. Dave was unbelievable at treading the ball through into Jamie Mullins' feet. You'd be getting pressed and he'd just smash a ball through the eye of a needle kind of stuff.
How important is it as a manager and a coach with these talented players? Like Jamie Mullins, just for people that don't know, was with Brighton, Hove Albion.
Yeah.
Evan Ferguson, I think most people would know at this stage. David Okagbue with Stoke. And they're just 3 or 4 players of a whole list of players that have gone across to England. How does one develop each individual within that system? And B, when players are that talented at that age, where does their ego kick in and trying to keep things relatively calm?
The individual one's a big one, and I think we've got away from that. I think there's a massive thing now in football. It's coming in earlier and earlier of team tactics. So lads learning team tactical stuff and not actually individual development. So every player should be getting improved individually, whatever their position or whatever they need to work on. And I just see more and more now that we're actually focusing so much on team tactical stuff, and we don't have our players for long enough, maybe 3 nights a week. And it seems to be a lot of teams. And I'm talking throughout the country, this is a broad statement I'm making, that there's a lot of what seems to be team tactical stuff or team shape, or this is how we attack, this is how we defend. And we're actually getting away from the individual stuff. So I'm a massive believer, you have to work on individual development. Cian Kelly is a left winger, so he has to be good at crossing the ball. The ball. So you have to have parts of your training session where your wingers are crossing the ball or they're taking people on 1v1. You have to Evan's a striker, so that knits in pretty well. If you're working on striking, crossing and finishing, you're going to work on the two boys. Or Jamie Mullins a midfielder, so can you have a practice where Jamie's getting the ball into Evan, laying it off, third man, my favourite thing in the world, laying it off and playing out wide and that kind of thing. So you have to have part of your session where you were focused on developing individuals as opposed to the team tactical stuff, which seems to be really, really come in loads the last few years of lads devoting so much time to shape.
Would you say the balance of what age category should that start becoming a thing, do you feel, with the current contact time we have with players? It should
definitely become a thing at 11-a-side football, but I just think you have to be careful how much time you devote to it. And it's almost now, because such time is being devoted to team tactical stuff, where I hear a players who are at 16 say, oh, he's not good with his left foot, or he's not this, Nick. He's only 16. He still has time to improve on that. But it's we're writing lads off already because they need to work on things. We'll work on it with them, give them individual development plans, or do something with them. But it's almost we don't have time to be committed to that because we need to get our shape sorted for the game on Sunday. And they're only 15 or 16. You should still be looking to develop each individual. Like, and I just think there's such a shift away to and I'm guilty. I have a UEFA A license. You're doing your A this week. Like, we are all guilty of it. That we're A licensed coach, a B licensed coach. We have to work on this type of stuff, but I still think we have to make sure we're developing individuals in our sessions.
It's interesting, but that I would have had the last year we coached together with a team. With that team, I found when we would do sessions, and this is probably us as young coach, we were very like, have it in my head, it goes centre half, 6 always does this. And it's when it's only when I look back at that now, I realise like how flawed that is. Always when centre half has a 6 goes here, whereas now you're trying to be more teaching that, like, so sometimes lads will come and go, what should I do here? I go, well, here are your options, but at the end of the day, you've got to be less predictable. So you're nearly trying to, although you'd have a build shape, like we're working with 17s, we'd have a build shape, and we'd have ideas or like patterns, so to speak, but you're trying not to go, well, every time the centre half has it, I want you right here. It's like, I want to give you them options, you know?
Someone said it to me that we're now coaching topics and not principles anymore. So like, you say to people, what are you working on training tonight? Pressing from the front. And it's like, okay, grand. So you're pressing from the front, and then you don't actually teach your striker who's pressing, well, how do you defend 1v1? Because that's literally what you're doing. Like, it's you against the centre half when he has it. Like, so how do you? It's all like, you curve your own, you send him here. What if you dive in? What if you show him the wrong side? What if he gets by you? How do you actually recover? How do you use your arms to get by? Get him back. There's so much of it, like, where it's like, and I thought that's such a great point, where I think someone on my A license said to me that we're coaching topics now and not the principle behind the topics. Like, it's we're given, what you working on tonight, or wide attack and play, and it might be how you get it to the winger. That's your wide attack and play. But how many crosses did he get in, and can he actually cross the ball? Does he know the different types of crosses, pullbacks, stand up to the back stick, what part of the foot to use to do that? And I thought that's massive thing now in my head, where I'm like, have to make sure that it's we're coaching the principle behind the topic and not just that topic. And I think one of the coaching courses on, someone set it up brilliant, shape was brilliant to both teams, all that, and never once actually told the striker, now when you get here, like, you have to hit the centre half, like, he can't come out with the ball, like, you have to win it off him or affect the game, pressure, tactical foul. There was nothing like that. It was like, everything was perfect. And, keeper, where could you be? And back four, where should you be? Right, brilliant. And he's delighted because his shape was right. But he never actually told his players, now when you get there, you have to go win the ball. You actually have to win the ball. That's why we're doing it. Like, and I think, again, we're just getting away from actually coaching the bits and pieces, I suppose.
Yeah. With, on principles, so for your kind of philosophy, do you have I've like a really different stuff on this, like some clubs would have philosophies where it's like, we have these 3 attacking principles, and they're obviously not based on maybe a system, they could be quite generic. Do you have that kind of thing for your functions? Like, my personal, and the lads, if any of the lads I coached watch this, they'd be laughing, because I'm sure they gave me on merciful stick when my back was turned about it. But obviously the whole Guardiola Cruyff thing, I've took on board so much, and Brighton do it so well now. It's like the third man principle of up, back, and the player comes back to is facing forward. So it's not that we 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s, I want kids turning on the ball, correct body shape, all that type of thing, and using tricks and skills in their body. If they do get it with someone, can they get turned? Can they take someone on? All that type of stuff. But we do like that principle of like up, back, and a player, when now they're facing forward, can they hurt the opposition? So that would be one. The thing of, like, again, the broad statement, playing through the thirds, I don't really like that comment, playing through the thirds, because talking about David Okagbue, like, he could hit a ball from the centre half along the ground into the centre forward's feet. So, like, why would I tell David, oh, you've not to do that, it has to go into midfield, because we want to play through the thirds? So, like, my thing is play the right pass, but we have to, I like dominating possession as much as possible. So we dominate possession, we keep the ball, and we press high to dominate possession. I don't like sitting off teams, and we try to do that. We try, but again, at under 8s, you don't tell an under 8, we're pressing them high. We just work on 1v1 defending and training, and 2v1s, and
You teach them how to do that, and then they'll do that because it's a 5-a-side pitch on a Saturday.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you don't tell them, we're working on pressing high today, lads. They're looking at you like, what does that mean? So that's kind of how we build it, that by under 13s, they go 11-a-side. They know what pressing high means, especially what position they're in. So I would be very much of that kind of dominate. I just like dominate possession. So
principles are interesting because they kind of have to be generic to a point where they apply to across the board, but they can't be, like you said, just playing through the thirds. Like I've tried, and I've kind of sometimes mixed mine up year on year, just trying to develop it, like overload versus isolate, so like overload ball side, isolate. And one I seen on possession, I think it was a Modern Soccer Coach podcast. A guy talked about the 70% possession model. So the 70% target is kind of, and then what's he saying? It's not like I have to hit it, but he's like, I want the players thinking we should have the ball 70% of the time, and actually putting a number on it. Because you could argue it's like a metric, you know, you could.
Like my thing would be, which I like, is like, say with that 2004 team, if for whatever reason one of the lads smashed it, the lads would be on his case. Like the lads would be on his case going, we don't do that. You know, we don't do that. Keep it. Like Sean Granton especially would be like, just give me the ball. Just give me the ball. And he'd be doing mad stuff as centre half, prive turns and drag backs and crazy stuff, you know. But that's, I suppose you have to allow that if you're telling them to be brave and dominate the game. But sometimes you have to put up that they might kind of take that to an extreme. But then you can't give out to them if it doesn't come off. Like, so I find it's more you set the tone in your training. This is how we're going to play. We're going to dominate possession. Your training sessions, work around that then. Like we'd have words in Kevin's more than like a philosophy. So we'd have little words like start again. So if it's not on to go forward, start again. Give it back to your goalkeeper. Play around. So if you're going on one side, it's not on to play forward. Play around into your keeper, into your centre half, into the play out the other side. That's kind of how we would do it, as opposed to you have to do this or you have to do that. But the dominating possession is a big one, and it's one I would instill in all the coaches that. And I know this sounds, people watching this going, oh, Kevin's all about winning, but like, I like the lads to win in a certain way. Obviously, you'll have the odd game where you don't play well and you win, great, but in general, I want them dominating the ball, dominating the game with and without the ball, so getting after teams we don't have it, like not sitting off. Again, it's just not my style, but the thing is 99% of people in Kevin's would buy into that as well, which is great. Like,
yeah, do you find it's easy for players to buy into an offensive aggressive?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too.
Yeah, it is. Now you get the odd one, like what if they smash it over our head because we're so high? We'll accept that, like we'll take that risk, you know.
Yeah,
like we played Man United 12s and 13s last February and lost both games, no problem with that. But we got after them, like we really, our possession, we got after them. And then in possession, it wasn't perfect because the big thing I found against not necessarily the UK teams but the European teams is how they control possession. Like we've played Barcelona so much and it's really slow, and you think we're in the game here because how slow it is, but they're just slowing it down to their tempo and then it's boom, bang bang in the back of your net, 3 passing, and what happened there? Like we were set up, it was slow. The English team still like to go helter skelter a lot, but against United, like our possession, we were great, and in possession, some phases of the game we were excellent, like excellent. Lads calm on the ball. We created chances, which is the big thing in football. You want to create chances. So that's pleasing when we play those games and we're not overawed with the ball.
What would be the big difference between an Irish schoolboy team, let's say like your Kevin's 11s and 12s, versus a Category 1 academy in England, or even the European teams? Because you're saying there's a little bit of difference between playing Manchester United or Ajax.
The English teams use their body so much better, I find. Like they will receive a pass and they're able to like manipulate the ball to get out of the tackle. Whereas our lads, I find still, even if it's like a 60-40 pass in our favour, they don't. Jamie Mullins was the best I've ever seen, like as an Irish player, in like getting the ball under pressure and using the outside of the boot or using his hips or using an arm or some type of magic to get out of it and come out with the ball. We don't do that well enough. Whereas like you play an English team and like the ball will go in and you think you have it and they'll do a drag back or a roll over or some type of skill to come away with the ball, or they'll keep it safe. To just get it safe, and pop it back. Like, it mightn't even be anything outstanding, but the ball come in, they'll get it safe straight away and keep it. And that's the big thing with the English sides. They've really come on over the years, like, in terms of that type of stuff. The Barcelonas of the world, that was the big thing we found, just the tempo. Like, they slow it down so much that you think... I remember the first time we played them, a thing called the Powerade Cup. So the Powerade, the drink, sponsored this. We went to it, like, and I thought we were well in the game. And I turned to Rob Dorn, assistant, and I was like, we're well in this, aren't we? And he's like, he looks at the watch, he's like, it's only 3 minutes gone, you lunatic. I was like, oh my God, because it was so slow.
You kind of thought it was...
And I thought, there's nothing happening here. There's nothing happening here. We're well in this. So there's 3 minutes gone. Then they beat us 5-0 or something, 20-minute game. That's what they're really good at. They will just slow it down, pass it sideways, they'll probe, and then when they see something, it's like bang, bang, so quick, and it's a goal.
You can see the extreme of that with Brighton now, where they literally stop it completely, and everyone's like, "What's this lunatic doing?" And then,
but like Gavi played on that Barca team.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he played guy Diego Almeida, who's in around Barca's first team centre half.
What year are they? Gavi?
2004.
Oh, 4, right.
Yeah, and then the lad, I think his name was Larios. So the first time we played in the tournament, he was with Seville. He got player of the tournament, but we got wind, everyone wanted him. Following year, he went to Barca. We played him twice. And then he went to City when he was 16. Him and another lad off that team, one went to City, one went to United. I think the lad is still with United, but man, Larios is with Southampton now. Now Southampton took all Man City's youths.
Yeah.
He's there. We actually played Man City then a few months later. Rico Lewis played for them. Portuguese lad that signed for Ajax recently, Borges or something like that.
Okay.
He played for Man City as well. So I keep an eye on these lads to see where they are years later.
On what Gary asked, then, do you find that the Irish lads do better than them, the Cat 1 academies or even the European?
Like, in terms of like expectation or
it's just like so.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I went over to Sheffield United.
Yeah.
3 years ago, and the Sheffield United manager said to us, we were with Stella Maris at the time, he said that we typically bring over Irish teams to kick the shit out of us because they're ruthless. That's what he said to us. Because apparently, like, that's exactly what they go after.
A lot of English academy football is passive. Like, I remember one team, I won't mention them, one team, I saw them play 4 times and they were hammered 4 times. Hammered. And I wouldn't be a ranter and a raver, but I was like, if that was me, I would be, how he's putting up with that. And then he had these team meetings about, so what could we do better? And what do you think? And like the winger wasn't protecting the fullback, and he's asking her, and why weren't you trekking back? Like, what was going through your head at the time? And I'm going, this is nonsense. This is like, how are you putting up with that? So there's a lot of that, I think, in English academy football. And we play with the 2006 age group. We played, so Nixon and Danny McGrath, lads like that, good lads. We played against Man City. They were a year younger in a tournament, and like that, 5 minutes in, we were like and one of the kids looked over to the manager, and he's like, "Get on with it. This is real football." And after the game, he's like, "I love that. We have never got." Now they beat us 2-0. They scored 2 late goals. It's like, we do not get that. We do not get that in academy football. But I've been to it's 21s now. It was 23s games in England, and like that, like, it's not like a real game of football.
It's
you've centre halves doing like roulettes on the edge of the box and that, because there's no real repercussions if they give the ball away and they lose. Like, I think that's why a lot of clubs will loan lads out to League 1, League 2, Championship clubs to get them into real football.
What did Killian Phillips say? You can't replicate jumping over a header and getting an elbow.
Yeah. But like,
literally,
I would definitely say that the only thing is that blood and glory and guts kind of thing will only get you so far. So we really need to. We have to get better on the ball. We have to. We have to. We're watching even the national team, and we're keeping a lot of possession, but we need to be creating more chances. Like, as a nation, I think as well. Again, going off another tangent here. At younger ages, we're putting too much emphasis on 1v1 skills, pace. So a lot of our wingers, our wide players, are people that we say, oh, he's great 1v1. They're actually just big and quick. So they're beating lads, they're beating the fullback because they're bigger and quicker than them. Again, that'll all equal itself out. I think we need to, again, go back to talking about James Bailey earlier. Like, he can beat a player with skill, pure skill, left foot, right. You can go inside, outside. They're the type of lads we have to be encouraging and developing and kind of beating people 1v1 through pace is great, but we have to be able to beat them 1v1 by being clever, being skillful, that kind of thing. So that's where we have to, I think, try to get better. And I say I'm coaching a long time, so I'm to blame as well. But
I know what you mean.
We have to get better at those things, especially that 1v1 stuff.
I suppose at club level, I suppose you have a direct influence in Kevin's, for example. But let's say, for example, if you were to wave a magic wand across all of Irish underage football, what would be the big changes that you'd make at a coaching level?
At a coaching level?
Yeah. Or even any level that you think would improve that idea of competing at international level.
Yeah, I think the introduction to the Underage League of Ireland has been good, but especially I'd say outside of Dublin, because the players now in the Corks and the Galways are getting more games frequently and that kind of thing. But I think a lot of people were excluded when that came in, and a lot of good, the famous good football people, but a lot of good football people were excluded when that came in. They need to be brought back on board, because there's a lot of knowledge out there that kind of almost pushed aside because this Underage League of Ireland came in. And not to veer off course, but we have to. So if you take our under 9s are going to Monaco next month for 3 days. So they're playing Monaco in 2 friendlies over there. So they're playing 3 days at Monaco Academy. And this is a lot of clubs, not just St. Kevin's. A lot of clubs will send young kids and young teams to the UK for games and kind of broaden their horizons. So this is real football now. You're going to be away from mommy and daddy. You're going to be playing academies. You're going to be travelling, all that kind of thing. And they give the kids a good kind of grounding. And then what's happened the last few years is that it's almost like this, that's been forgotten about. And it's like, now, a graduate of the League of Ireland or because of the League of Ireland, we're getting these players through. We can't look away from the work that's done at all clubs between the ages of 4 and 12, 4 and 13. That's where there has to be a bigger focus put in, because we know we've coached kind of 14s, 15s, 17s League of Ireland. That a lot of the stuff when you get there, it's sometimes it can be too late to fix or to change. So we have to definitely put so much more of an emphasis on the 4 to 12 and not forget the good work that is done there, and just kind of have this magic thing that players just become players at 13 or 14 once they start playing League of Ireland football. So that's one thing that we can't get away from, the work that's done between 4 and 12. We need more contact time with the players. Certainly need more contact time with the players. We need better facilities. Definitely need better facilities. Like, these are generic, and everyone would say that, but it like when you go to an academy, like an actual academy, and I'm not talking the Man City's, like an actual academy in a League One team even, and you're going, oh my God, there's nobody in Ireland has this.
Yeah.
So there's that obviously has to improve. We have a good culture in Ireland. It's that winning culture, and it's like we're talking about. It's that getting at them and that physicality. But like, I'd be at games some weekends, and some of the shouts from sidelines are crazy. I'm not talking about under 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s games are crazy, and we have to have our players have a love for the ball, and if they're being put under undue pressure to not get on the ball and not try things, and that fear, and that can be from coaches, parents, whatever. We have to try, and I know by making games non-competitive, we've tried to eliminate that, but I don't know if you ever will. But it's a massive question, but like, something has to change, because we are not where we should be, and you can't hope that once every 10 years an Evan comes through, or in 10 years' time, whoever's 8 now is the great hope of 10 years. Like, the generic thing is that kids need more football, coaches, and I'm not saying you do a coaching course and you become a good coach, but coaches need to educate themselves, whichever way that is, whether it's doing FAI courses or doing online stuff or traveling around. We do need to. The flip side of that is there's so many volunteers in the game that, and like someone say, why would I spend loads of money when I'm never going to see that back? And that's hard. That is hard. I get, but I don't know if that's a bit generic or not.
No,
but
it's big questions have. I would say the big questions have more generic answers, and that is a big question. I think one thing that you talked about was very interesting there about, let's say, young kids from 4 to 12 as like a developmental phase. I find there's a lot of fear put on the kids from parents and coaches. My argument would be that that's actually a lack of education for parents and for coaches. One thing that I've often thought about, never really theorized on paper or anything, would be that maybe it's not the FAI, but there definitely should be some sort of parental governing body that is really teaching parents their roles and responsibilities with a sporting child. Because even if you take Evan Ferguson's parents, for example, they have seen a sporting background, for example, with Barry's career. And I think that itself, it's weight in gold. I'm not saying that every player is going to go across to Brighton like Evan is, but definitely from what I seen from Evan as a kid, the first game I saw Evan was a cup final he just played in 12s. I was like, oh my God, like that kid's just a different level.
That's one against Stelamar.
It was. It's funny, you remember every game. But I was like, oh my God. But even just, as you said, personality, lack of fear, a smile on his face. Like the amount of games you go to now at like 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s, and it's just wide-eyed kids fearful of the football.
I suppose actually, to go back to your very first question, you've kind of touched on it there, is that I would, like if kids aren't enjoying training, like the under 9s tonight I coach, I hope they enjoyed it. Like they seem to enjoy it, and they seem to be, when I told them it's over, 2 more minutes kind of thing, can we not, so that's good. You're saying to yourself, well, they're taking something out of it. So to go back to your first question now that I'm thinking, I probably would coach the lack of fear, if it's possible, that you have to allow them make mistakes, and it's not a reflection of you as a person or a coach if on a Saturday your centre half, who you've told be brave on the ball, makes a mistake and he loses the game. It doesn't make you a bad coach. It doesn't make you not know the game or that kind of thing. So you have to kind of take the step back and tell the kids, take risks. We'll take the brunt of any mistakes. And maybe that's the good thing about that group, was that they a lot of them came together from 8s, 9s, 10s. Most of that group came in and stayed together all the way up. So they did have that collective thing of a want to win. I didn't think you have to, if you want to instill a winning mentality, that comes in training. It doesn't come in games where we won the weekend and we'll keep winning and that makes us winners. You instill that winning mentality in training. I'd be a big believer in that. Even at under 8s, have your little 1v1 battles, or the losers pick up after training or something like that, and you're just throwing little things that, because winning isn't a dirty word. Like it's not. Winning shouldn't be a dirty word. I agree. And kids should want to win, and I like in under 8s and 9s giving that bit of competitiveness into them. But I would agree. I think some people, and that's a broad one. It could be parents, it could be coaches, struggle to differentiate the difference between watching a game in the League of Ireland Stadium on a Friday, or going to an England game on a Saturday, or playing in the Leinster Senior League, and how you behave at that, to watching an under 10s game and how you should behave. Because
great one. I never thought about that.
A lot of people do think that
it's football.
It's football. So if you're watching a game and you're a Man United fan and the Liverpool right back gets in front of you and you can roar at him, that you can do that then on a Saturday when you're at a game, and that's where people have to realise, like, these are, like, you wouldn't, if you were walking down the street and you saw a 9-year-old struggling to ride a bike,
you wouldn't just
and your kid was great at riding a bike, you wouldn't start shouting at the other lad, you don't know what you're doing, you're rubbish. Put them under, like, I was at a game last week and there was like a lad shouting at a kid, shouting at his own child, he doesn't want it. He doesn't fancy it. About another. I'm going, he's 9. He's 9 years of age. And you're running on the pitch to get after him. He doesn't want it. He doesn't fancy it. I'm like, imagine walking down the street and doing that. You'd be arrested. What happens to people when they go to watch a kid's game of football that they think that is normal? That is normal.
That's mad.
Yeah. So that would be something definitely.
It's education, then, isn't it?
It is education.
Yeah, it is. And even what you were saying there about like what would you change to make Irish football great? I do agree that even like small things like a winning mentality in sessions, that is something that I think somebody can take away from this instantly because let's say, for example, look, I think the 04 crop that we talked about a lot today, a lot of them are pro footballers. It's absolutely an amazing achievement, Karl, if I'm being honest with you. That's the best schoolboy team I've seen personally. And that's, let's say, for example, 1 in a million, right? But it's not to say that other kids in Kevin's who aren't going to be pros or any other club in the country, they're definitely going to take more from having a winning mentality in sessions and with, let's say, really good quality coaching, trying to install those life habits. Because at the end of the day, life is a competitive sprint. Yeah. Regardless if it's work, if it's friends, it's all about like healthy competition.
On the flip side of that, then when you talk about that winning mentality in training, there's naturally going to be a loser in the session, and that kid has to understand that it's okay for me to be annoyed because Gary beat me in my 1v1.
Absolutely,
and sit with that, and then like the whole resilience thing. We're kind of moving away from that, and even you see courses now rather than failed, you're referred, and like the Finn I think was telling me about the junior sort. You can't, you don't got to fail, and if you get a what's it in? I can't remember what it's a continual blading, whatever it is, but it's like where like the failure is now the dirty word that nobody wants. It's interesting.
Like that 2004 group, we lost in All Ireland quarter final under 12s, and it's like the end of the world. Like it was because Cherry Orchard were really good at that age group.
Top side. Yeah,
they were
really
Glory, Tommy Lonergan, Ben Quinn,
excellent,
amongst other players, like really good. And we lost, and it was the end of the world for all of us. We were in mourning for weeks over it, like because we'd been building ourselves up to winning. Because under 12s was your first All Ireland, and we lost the quarter final. Yeah, but we won the next few, and maybe that was because we lost the under 12s. Like you know?
Absolutely. Well, like, would Jordan be the same player if he, wasn't held at the realm of the Bulls for a few years?
Yeah.
It is. It's incredible what failure does teach. And even if you go back to first principles, excuse me, I'm kind of cold, about, let's say, philosophy versus principles and stuff, like, accepting of failure should be a principle as well. Yeah. And even if that's educated. And even... Again, it's just zooming out again on what can be improved for Irish football. But I think if parents can really understand that, failure is the opportunity to grow. And I think everybody intuitively knows that. But do people ever put the brakes on and go, how do I act that out? As a parent, when I see failure, do I scream at the manager? Do I pick up the phone the next day and say, you should be doing X, Y, Z? Or do I actually say, you know what, failure actually is going to be where the kid's going to... step on the
and
next
it's not
level.
Fatal, like it's not. That's the big thing people have to realize, that like especially losing a game under 9s, so sometimes just let the kids figure out for themselves, and if they lose they lose. Like it's under 9s, we've plenty of time to fix it. And that's a I know it's a quote, but it isn't fatal. Like you can fix it. It's especially the really younger, but you have to, you're right, like about life skills. Like we'd get slagged over it in certain quarters, like, but obviously with COVID things have changed. But we would have always greet the lads with a handshake and expected a handshake back in house school, and if they saw an adult handshake, look them in the eye, we'd go away to West Brom, and if you bumped into West Brom coach, like shake him and shake his hand. People might think it's naff or it's whatever, but they're not all going to be professional footballers. Some are going to have to work in an office, some are going to have to work in a shop, and a manager might come in and shake your hand. If you can't look him in the eye and have a conversation with him, you're in big trouble. Like, and that's kind of little things that we would have instilled, and they'd come from a long time before my time. And Kevin said, come from the very top. But like, again, it's just putting those little things into lads that I like, and people will be different, but I like doing as well as the X and O stuff. That putting that life skills, and you'd hope. Lads can still come to you. Martin Kinsella is a guy I coach with the DDSL with Leinster Youth, and Martin, like, amazing guy. And Martin used to say to me, like, your gold medal card is not winning the cup final, it's in 10 years' time if one of them needs a reference for a job and he comes to you looking for a reference or he bumps into the street and is like, remember that trip we went on? That's your gold medal. Like, not winning the cup final is great and at last you'd be delighted for a day or two. You put the medal in a drawer somewhere.
And it never it goes in a little bag in a drawer.
If these lads can 10 years' time think, who would I go to for advice? Well, I'll ring Karl or I'll text Karl, whatever like that. That's your gold medal, really. And that's, I think, what you should really be aiming for. That only 11 players can start, so you're going to be a 9-7 lads every week.
Yeah.
But if they can have a bit, if they know, maybe that's fair, but that you're being fair as you can be. But in 5 years' time, if you bump into them and they greet you a handshake and talk to you, well, you've done something right. I think
I think players need to understand as well. Well, they don't need to understand. They're the ones that are, they're the ones that cross the white lines. But sometimes we make decisions as staff and as coaches on training sessions or for games that they'll just never understand.
No, never,
because they're not coaches and we're not players. It's such a weird grey area.
It's a weird dynamic. Like,
the handshake's interesting. I was only chatting to a couple of my lads about there the other week. I was like, why do you think we do it? And the way I frame it is, you see everyone, it's positive, and you always end the session positive. So, like, the idea of in the session, I could have been coaching Gary, I made a point and he doesn't agree, and we have a little back and chat about it. But it's still at the end, it's like, it's always a positive. It has to be, It's interesting on the failure thing. What you see as well is like that the player loses the game or whatever it could be. And I would have been guilty of this as a coach. I know when they're 8s, 9s, obviously you want that enjoyment, but as they're getting to that older age, sometimes you see a kid who might be frustrated. He's just a kid who doesn't take losing well. So he's frustrated often. As a young coach, I would have been very like, you're all right. You're great. You're nearly trying to, sometimes you just need to leave them and be like, that's their fire. Like, they kind of, not that they like that part of their game, but it's interesting how everyone's quick to go, especially young coach. I was guilty of it going over to the kid. You okay? No, you're good. Don't worry about that. You're nearly worried that he'll get in the car and the parent will be like, why is he in a bad mood? But they obviously would know their kid better than you. But it's interesting, and as you get older and coach with older lads, you kind of when to leave them and let them stew in it nearly. It's interesting.
It's very interesting. Just circling back to Evan, Karl, for a couple of seconds. Just obviously, the guy's a superstar really at this stage, which is absolutely incredible. But it's funny, we kind of were exposed to him early. Like I said, in that 12s game, he stood out a country mile. When we were at the DDSL, he was on the same bus as us, traveling to games, playing before us, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like, this kid's amazing. But you say that about a lot of people. You say that about a lot of players. When a guy goes from 14 to 16, what was the major click that you said, okay, he has a real chance?
The gas thing is, COVID came in during that time. So, like, there wasn't a lot of football played. So 2019 was I had them from 2011, 2019. Kind of handed them over then, and he was banging goals in their first goal at League of Ireland, so under 15s. He was banging goals in, and obviously that famous Chelsea game. Yeah, it's kind of that was when. Like, it's not normal, even in a friendly, when Chelsea had only trained for a few days, it's not normal for a 14-year-old to come on and play like that. Even in terms of just getting on the ball and demanding the ball and taking people on. He got a few shots off. And
he scored.
He was linked with the goal. He kind of did a dummy and all that kind of thing. Like, so that would say that there's something kind of different there, I suppose. But COVID came in then a few months later, like, so there wasn't much football played. I remember he played for the 17s, the Boss Kevin 17s final in Kerry. He scored 2 great goals in that. And then he was kind of gone. No, it's then the following, and COVID really kicked in. Very little football played. They played about 3 games the following year, and they got into the 17s final again. And they beat Rovers in the final 3-4.
That was in the ball.
He got a great flick in that game. But like, there wasn't. This is the gas thing. There wasn't actually, like, so that time 2019, COVID came into 2020. Like, so, and then he gone to Brighton in 2021. So really, COVID kind of kicked in. So in that kind of 14 to 16, didn't play much football.
Gas.
That's hilarious. Didn't play much football. It was like, I don't know. It was maturity, maybe.
Evan strikes me as a guy, like, he wouldn't even know me. I just know him from in the DSL squads when I was coaching. He'd be in and around the same buses and teams, but him and his career strikes me as a guy that's just a guy that is just compounding 1% of the time. He's always constantly improving. And I think constantly improving sounds like an easy thing to do, but when you have a parental background, good staff with yourself, and a good teammate community, so like Jamie, Sean, other strong young leaders, it seems to just take you to that level, because I don't think people realize how, and I suppose you'd be great to even talk about this, but like you've seen the likes of Gavi and even in the Academy Cup, for example, talent is not scarce in Europe. I mean, it's everywhere.
No, it's everywhere. It's
absolutely everywhere. So, you know, Brighton have the pick of every single player nearly in Europe at this stage compared to like some like Man City's, for example. And I always find it so fascinating when people see like the finished product. It's like they don't see the 6-year-old kid who's knocking a ball with Sean Grehan to the guy that's then scored in the Premier League at 18. Like, and when it comes to, let's say, you managing Evan, let's say when other clubs are knocking, do you have a direct relationship with, let's say, Liverpool comes knocking or United comes knocking and Brighton comes knocking? What does that look like for an underage coach?
Yeah, like I never got involved in any of that because there would obviously, I think Cafa would have been director of football or the head coach, and Kevin's and Ken Dunn, director of football, and Brendan would look after trials and all. So I never really felt it was my place even to kind of get involved in that type of stuff. I just would have coached them and asked him how he got on when he got home. That was it, you know. That was it. Like, and he would say, "Oh, great, I liked it, really liked it. We played this game, we played that game." So kind of, I never would have thrown my 10 cents in there or anything like that. I would have never with the trials or and like that. Like obviously in my head, I'm thinking Liverpool and Man United and all go out and buy a striker tomorrow for 80 million, and our manager could get sacked, new manager comes in and all that kind of thing. But with the trials and all, I always kind of thought it was none of my business really. That my role is to help them as much as I can with my knowledge and my experience, to teach him the game. Yeah. And kind of help his role as a striker. Although we did play him midfield and won All-Ireland final, but help him as a striker because that's where I thought he'd end up, and he likes scoring goals. So that's all I ever really focused on. I never kind of would have thought it was my place to ever kind of have it. I'd ask him, how'd you get on? That was it really. And
makes sense. I mean, a good club or a good system has defined roles. You know, coach is a coach. Let's say the top dogs do all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's the same way in your organisation.
Because there would have been like, that was a good team in fairness. So there was constantly people at our games and lads going away and back and loads of trials. So I just thought, well, I'll just coach them and
see what happens.
hopefully we keep winning and the lads keep developing, and some of them, because they all, you ask any kid what trying to be as a professional footballer, like, so hopefully some of them could get a career out of this was always my hope. Like
it's interesting with like his career trajectory is like you're talking about all the different factors that influence it. The massive one is like timing, or some people would say luck, where like what are the chances that he peaks into first team football, as they have probably one of the most talked about progressive coaches whose team creates the most chances, so he's going to get more goals. It's mad. Like if he was 2 years older, he just might not get in because the manager doesn't plan to, or whatever way it is, or there may be a bit more of a defensive, so I'm not going to put the 18. Whereas you look now, if he's not starting and Welbeck's starting, you know after 60 minutes he's probably coming on, and they're still creating chances, so he might nick it late goal. It's mad how much luck
it's a perfect
plays a part.
To the perfect team, how they play for Evan's style, I think they're brilliant to watch. So good to watch.
Have you got any insights from him on what it's like to work on there?
I'm going over the Saturday to the West Ham game.
Oh, nice.
So I'll try get a bit more, but no, like again, I'm always just cautious of not prying too much. I'll ask obviously De Zerbi, we laugh that De Zerbi is like quoted Guardiola as having a massive influence on him, and so Evan cannot get away from Pep. He can't.
He had this year.
And then he buys him, brings him to City. Haaland, you're done.
They do, like, you see a lot of, like, Brighton. Again, I'm not for 1 minute saying we played football like Brighton or Kevin's teams do, but a lot of, like, up back, and the combinations and all. So it's really how we would have loved playing, and Brighton have brought it to this massive extreme. So I just kind of talk about that, really, that the training's quite intense and that, you know, and De Zerbi is one of these talented genius madmen, obviously, like, so I wouldn't, I'd ask again generic kind of questions about the training and that, and but he's obviously, I think what you're seeing on the pitch is how they train. That's the big thing, you know, tight possession grids, and
like you mentioned before. Do you think Brighton are the most exciting team now outside of, let's say, the big
defo? 100%.
Yeah.
Like, they are unbelievable to watch.
I don't want to miss on them. I had to analyze two professional teams. So I went Atletico Madrid because I wanted to just go, I'll do a defender, why not? A Simeone masterclass, and then I like that the opposite done Brighton against Arsenal, the 3-0 game.
The big thing is you look, even the bits, the little snippets you see, is like they always pass it to the correct foot, like, because they play in such tight spaces. It has to be passed to the correct foot, and that's a big thing. He's a believer on, like, you know, pass the correct foot, like, it's massive.
And it's interesting. People sometimes say, they win. It's like, I don't have the players to play that way, so to speak. You look at someone like the likes of Kroos, for example, is unbelievable when you watch him play. But how many people would have said that?
One of the games I was at a game last season, and he played right back, centre midfield.
I think he done it against United. I think he might have played left back as well, or something.
Yeah, and he left back.
Ridiculous,
like he was, but every position he was perfect.
Yeah,
every position he was perfect.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They're so good. But yeah, just I'd ask again generic. I'd love to ask. Draws out a few sessions there, you know. Draws out a few.
Just wear this GoPro next time.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be that bold and brave. But just kind of generic stuff. But the thing with Evan, like, and it's this thing of, like, deliberate practice. So I was talking to someone recently about it, and you see it, if you're doing, say, a bit shooting, crossing and finish at the end, you know, 10 minutes, just finish a bit crossing and finishing, lads. And again, am I being broad here? Because I don't really know. I could be talking nonsense here. But, like, what I've encountered with, like, young Irish players is the first 5 minutes, it would be brilliant. You know, because if you say a bit unopposed cross finish to finish the session, it can be great. And then it'll be like, right, I'm going to start chipping the goalkeeper now. I'm going to start with the outside of my boot now. And it will start, footballs going everywhere. Whereas the likes of an Evan, Jamie Mullins, like, every shot would be hitting the target. And it wouldn't be all going in.
Yeah.
But, like, they would be hitting the ball correctly to go on target. You know, they would be making the keeper make a save.
Discipline.
You know, that kind of thing. And it's constant.
Deliberate
practice. So much
like,
just constant. So that would be the big one with them, where, like, you're talking about the 1%. Like, if you're constantly trying to do something correct, you're going to get better at it, aren't you?
No doubt.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing everyone talks about, like the likes of Ronaldo with training and all. It was always from 18 up. It was always that.
Yeah. Deliberate practice, discipline,
and that mentality to be disciplined to do it.
Yeah, it's not rocket science, but I was saying this to another person. It's like the practice isn't hard, but doing it consistently,
it's a big one.
Over not even like a session, over years. Now that's tough. You know.
Yeah.
I think before we wrap up, I think we should have talked about this earlier as well. But it's funny. I know you. I wouldn't know you personally, but one thing I always associate with you is Pep Guardiola, Barcelona, and Ajax.
Right. Yeah.
Where did that start, first of all, and how has it developed into?
Right. Yeah.
This
Where did
now?
it start? So, my dad is a massive West Ham fan. So, I don't know. I don't even know if it's rightly or wrongly anymore. But West Ham have always had this reputation as, like, the West Ham way of, like, Bobby Moore.
Okay.
You know, Trevor Brooken.
Frank Lampard Senior.
Yeah, like, they got rid of Sam Allardyce because the fans didn't like how they played football, you know. And not saying it's any different with David Moyes, but West Ham have always had this thing of, like, stylish football.
It's kind of like Spurs have a
you know, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So from a young age, my dad would have always had a thing like of how you play football. It should be attacking. Like you should go to a game on a Friday and be entertained. Like, so my dad has always had this thing, and he would have brought me to every game of football that was on in Dublin. We went to some mad games, but there's a game of football in Dublin. Like, I remember one midweek, IFK Gothenburg were playing Shelbourne or something like that. There's about 12 people at it. Like, but we were at it, and he's telling me about this fella and that he play. So I would have got that initially from him. My granddad, so my mom's dad played League of Ireland. He had the goal scoring record for Dundalk, like scoring in consecutive games for them. But he was the same, where he'd watch a game and he'd say, "Oh, it was a brutal game. It was a brutal game." You know, he would. There was no skill involved in that game. So his thing was like, there should be skill involved. There should be some type of entertainment, skill involved in it. And then the Barcelona thing was the 1992 European Cup final. So my brother is 9 years older than me, but he's a massive. So it actually started the previous year, 91. They played the Cup Winners' Cup final against Man United. My brother's a massive Arsenal fan, so he was like, "I'm up for the other team because they're playing against Man United," and they happened to be Barcelona. But the following year they got the European final, and we was like, "Oh, that's the team we were supporting." Like, it would have been 6 or 7 supporting last year, and it's mad how things click with you as a kid. Barcelona won that 1-0. Ronald Koeman scored, but at the end of the game, they took their away shirts off. So before they got the trophy, and they put their home shirts on, because the first time they ever won the European Cup, so they wore orange, and then before they went to collect trophy, all the players put the stripes on. And as a kid, I was like, "This is unbelievable." So then back then there was no Sky Sports or like, you got to see Barcelona play once a year, and a few months later, then they played Man United and they hammered Man United, and Romario was in then, and Koeman, Stoichkov. Like, Romario and Stoichkov, I was obsessed with as kids. Absolutely obsessed with. So the Barcelona thing just exploded from then, that I just became obsessed with them. But until probably the late 90s, you didn't get to watch them regularly, until Sky started showing La Liga every weekend. But I've just been obsessed with them since I was a kid. Since those games. And anything I could get on them, I got it, like books or documentaries, videos, DVDs, anything. And it just kind of started from there. And that, like I said, then start going to games. When I started working and got a few quid, I started going to watch Barcelona play. Ronaldinho, Eto'o, Deco, Juli, all them. Rijkaard was the manager.
Yes.
And I remember going to a game, me and my now wife, but we'd only started going out. And I said to her, "This lad coming on, he's 18, he's going to be really good. He's going to be, came on for Ronaldinho." It was Messi. It's like, he's going to be really good. We'll keep an eye out for him. Like, he'd already scored for Barcelona a bit already, so it wasn't a punt by any stretch, you know. Yeah. But I was like, keep an eye out for him. He came on, Ronaldinho was against Almeria. Ronaldinho was really poor, and Messi come on and scored. And then the following year, 2 years later, they signed Henry, and just when Pep took over, I was just like, I have to go. This fella, because I'd been keeping an eye on the B team the previous year.
You obviously followed them.
So I've been watching the B team play, and I was like, I've never seen football like this. And that's why I would passionately defend Guardiola to, like, I know this, could he do it with Grimsby? Yeah, he could, If he went there, you're not saying he'd win the Champions League with them, but he'd have them playing football, he'd get them promoted.
I was only talking to lads about this before we came on about, I hate the argument of, it's easy because he has the best players, but it's like, it's not easy to manage. No. Literally 25 of the best players in the world, you know?
And I would, for years, people used to argue with me and try, right, and I'd say, you will never change my opinion on this, on Guardiola. Ever. Like, I would defend him to the hilt. So when he took over then, it just amplified my love of Barcelona. But it would have really came from my dad, my granddad, my mom's cousin is Keith Fahey. Okay, so my mom's family were good at football. And my dad was just a massive football fan. But good football, like he was always
the art of football.
Cruyff, Maradona,
beautiful.
Bobby Moore's his hero, and to that I'd no choice really, you know. And even to this day, like, my dad will go watch games and his thing, he didn't play well. didn't play well. You know, that even now he's kind of instilled in me that it's like football is a form of entertainment. So go attack and entertain and show skill. And I'd like to think I've kind of brought it through to how we coach and how my teams play as much as possible. But that's where that all started. So my dad, my brother, they're to blame really for it. Yeah. So
what makes a Pep Guardiola team back then the best team ever?
Well, one is obviously the players, right? So where you get a collection of Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets as your three midfielders, Messi ahead of them. But for me, it's how they dominated the game in possession. Like that 5-0 against Real Madrid. Like there's parts of that now where you'll be on Twitter and you'll see, you go, I don't even remember that happening in the game. You're watching it, it's like Abidal, Busquets, Xavi, maybe Piqué in a diamond, and they're just popping the ball around. Like Xabi Alonso, Ronaldo, they're popping the ball around.
The best
like
players,
Khedira,
the best players in the world.
Sergio Ramos, like they just can't get near them. Like can't get near them. And it's that thing of just it's beautiful football. Like you can't watch that. Yeah. Some people say it's sterile because it's keeping possession and all that, but for me, it's just beautiful football where Messi would beat someone, Busquets will do a turn on the edge of his box, get pressed. Like they just dominate the game. So that's why I think. And then the results, obviously they won 2 Champions Leagues. They should have won 4. 2010, I still blame the ash clouds. The Icelandic, they had to travel by bus to play into Milan. And then 2012, freak game against Chelsea where they missed about 20 chances. Messi missed a penalty on that. So they should have won 4 Champions Leagues in a row. I think it would have been, the debate would have been over. Yeah. But it's the skill of how they played and dominated the game. I don't think we'll see ever again. Well, not in my lifetime anyway.
Yeah, let's wait and see.
Yeah.
Other than that, then, Karl, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed that. I could save another few hours. That's not worry.
Part 2 at some stage.
There's always a part 2.
We always say that.
Because things always come up, and I mean, geez, when Evan gets his 100 cap,
when he gets his move to wherever
Barcelona, or with Pep, now you can die a happy man. Evan, then, Karl.
I used to when I'd go to the Barcelona games, I'd bring the lads back. Like they're like almost like postcards. But be like each. Evan actually has his Brighton one now, which when the first time I went over and saw in the club shop was the most surreal moment of my life. That this kid I used to bring these back for,
he's on
now has his own in the Brighton club shop. You know, his
that's
own.
Incredible.
That's class.
But we used to bring. So I'd get like 20 and just bring them back for the lads, But Evan is Real Madrid. Unfortunately, he's a Real Madrid fan and Cristiano Ronaldo fan. So as much as I try to brainwash, I brainwash. Talk about brainwashing. My under-8s can quote Pep. I'll say who says what does Pep say? The sideline is the best defender. My under-8s can do it the sideline is the best defender, and I've indoctrinated them in Pep and Messi. I couldn't get around Evan. Unfortunately, he's Ronaldo and Real Madrid.
We won't get into that debate because we're the United fans, so we swing a bit that way.
And ignorance.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks,
Enjoyed
Karl.
that.